Hey everyone, and welcome to the start of another reading vlog. So it is currently the 1st of September and I am currently reading two books and neither of them are on my Bookoplathon TBR, so we're off to a good start. However, I was thinking that because Becca is doing reading sprints on her channel tonight, I might make a start on the first book from my Bookoplathon TBR, which is The Heart Principle by Kwang. This is an adult romance that is technically the third book in a series, but the books are written as standalones, and so you don't have to have read the first two books to read the third book. However, I have actually read the first two books, and so yeah, like I want to continue the series because I really liked the first two books and I have really high hopes for this one. Oh, look at you being all cute. Come on. If you can hear my cat purring, it's because Tallulah has decided to become really clingy this week. But I can't even remember what I was going to say. I think I was talking about Malice and how no, I wasn't even talking about Malice. What am I going on about? I was talking about The Heart Principle, which is the book that I'm planning to start tonight. And then I am also currently reading Malice by Quinn. I'm about 60% of the way through and I am really enjoying it now. I struggled a little bit in the beginning because there's so many characters and it's quite dense, I would say. I do really like Quinn's writing and I like the way that he builds up this atmosphere. So I should probably actually explain what Malice is about. So it's an adult fantasy that is very epic. That is the best way that I can think to describe Quinn's writing and his world building. It's set in a world where there are giants and there are these signs of things happening in this world that are suggesting that this ancient prophecy might be about to come true. Originally, I was planning to finish Malice by the end of August because it was on my August TBR, but it's one of those books where I don't want to feel like I'm rushing it because there's so much to the world and because it's quite detailed and there's a lot of in-depth character development. I want to make sure that I'm not rushing it and that I am actually processing everything that's happening. The other book that I'm currently reading is Assassin's Quest by Hobb, which I'm listening to this on audio because I've learned from past experience that I prefer these books as audiobooks. So Assassin's Quest is the third book in the Farseer trilogy, which is part of the Realm of the Outlandings series. It's a very slow-paced, character-driven fantasy, but it's also very political, which I love political fantasies. It's my favourite type of fantasy. And even though I didn't love Royal Assassin as much as the first book, no, wait, am I getting the books confused? No, I'm not. Royal Assassin was the second book, and then Assassin's Apprentice was the first book. So yeah, I didn't love Royal Assassin as much as Assassin's Apprentice. However, there are so many things about this series that I do like, and especially the characters. There are a couple of characters in particular that I really have learned to love, and so I want to keep on reading to find out what's gonna happen. But yeah, those are the books that I'm hopefully going to be reading in this vlog. I would like to finish Malice by the end of the week and also The Heart Principle because I'm pretty sure that when I read the first two books in the Kiss Quotient series, I finished them quite quickly, and so I think that that is a manageable goal. Assassin's Quest, I'm pretty sure that I'm not going to finish in this vlog because I think I'm about 10% of the way through and I still have over 30 hours left of the audiobook, so it's going to be one of those where I probably read it gradually throughout the month. Hey everyone, so I actually managed to read quite a lot on sprints last night. I read another 10 to 12% of Malice, so I'm now about 70% of the way through. And then I also made a start on, not the Kiss Quotient, I almost said the Kiss Quotient, I'm going to be doing that a lot in this vlog. I also made a start on The Heart Principle. I am enjoying this so far, however, because I have an arc of this through NetGalley, and I think it's literally only just been released. I think it came out like a couple of days ago, so I hadn't seen many reviews for it beforehand, and there's something that, I mean, it's revealed in the first few chapters, so it's not a spoiler, but there's a theme within this book that I didn't know about going into it, and so that kind of took me by surprise. Basically, the story follows two main characters, Anna and Kwang. So Anna is a violinist, and a few years ago she became quite famous through YouTube because of how good she is as a violinist. However, recently she's been really struggling to make music and she's been feeling very burnt out and she's no longer really enjoying it. She's finding it very suffocating, and on top of that, her boyfriend has just turned around to her and said that he wants an open relationship. He actually says that he's pretty sure that she's the girl that he wants to marry and that he wants to settle down with, but he wants to sleep around for a bit beforehand to see what else is out there. And honestly, he is a dick. Like, it happens every so often where I come across a character that just really makes me angry, and he makes me angry. Anna obviously isn't okay with the situation, but she starts talking to a few friends and they convince her that maybe she could see it as an opportunity and she could also go out and do exactly what he's doing and see what else is out there. The other main character is Quinn, and he is a character, one of the side characters from the first two books, and he was one of my favourite characters in the first two books, so I was really excited to get his perspective in this book. As I mentioned though, something that I didn't know going into this book is that Kwang was diagnosed with cancer 2 years ago, and it's completely changed the way that he sees himself and the way that he sees relationships. And at the start of the book, he's talking to his cousin Michael, and Michael suggests that he could maybe start using dating apps again, and maybe he could have a few casual relationships just to ease himself back into dating. So that's the basic setup for the plot, and already I feel like this book might be a little bit difficult for me to read. I think I'm going to be okay because usually I am okay with cancer storylines. It's been 2 years since I finished chemo, and so I'm at a stage now where usually I'm okay with that sort of content. I want to be careful with how I talk about this because I don't want to feel like I'm oversharing, but a lot of the thoughts and the feelings that Kwang is going through, I can really relate to. I think I am going to be okay reading this because I do have faith that the author is going to handle it in a sensitive way. I think that just because I wasn't expecting it going into the book, it kind of took me by surprise a little bit, and so it's just something that I'm gonna be aware of as I go forward. Hey everyone, and happy Saturday. So it is Saturday afternoon, and I feel like the last few days have been really busy, but last night, or technically this morning, I finished reading Malice by Quinn. I started reading last night and I wasn't intending to finish it, but then it reached a certain point where I knew that I probably wouldn't be able to sleep until I knew what happened, because things were starting to get really intense, and that ending, I really want to read the next book quite soon because there were certain things that happened and I'm not sure if I fully understood what happened. I think I have. I think I've grasped everything, but yeah, it was a lot. I think I already mentioned that I did struggle with this book a little bit in the beginning because there were so many characters, but in terms of the characters, I did really like a few characters in particular. I really liked Corbin's point of view, and Corbin, I don't want to say that he's the main character, but he's the character that you hear from the most throughout the story. And there's also an animal companion, which is one of my favourite tropes. If there's an animal companion in a book, then it's pretty much guaranteed that if it's done right, then I'm gonna love it. Another thing that I did really like about the characters in this book is the way that there are certain characters who from the beginning you know that they're evil, or you know that they're not good. Whereas there are other characters, and throughout the story, you're trying to work out what side they're going to fall on. And I had a lot of fun trying to make predictions and trying to, work out what direction it was going to go in. I am really interested to see if there are going to be any new perspectives that are going to be brought in the later books, because there are a few characters that I would really like to see their point of view. And I'm not going to say much more than that, but yeah, there's one character in particular that I think would be really interesting to hear their point of view. So yeah, I gave this book 4 stars overall, and I definitely do want to continue the series. I think with the next book, I'm going to see if I can borrow a physical copy from my library, because one thing I did struggle with was grasping the places in this world. And there is a map at the start of the book, but because I was reading on my Kindle, it wasn't like I could easily flick back and forth. Every time I wanted to look at the map, I had to Google it and get it up on my phone, and so it was just like a little bit difficult. Obviously it's not the book's fault, and I wouldn't rate a book down for that because that is how I've chosen to read the book, but I think that it would be good with the next book to at least try and get a physical copy, because I think that that would just take a lot of the stress off of me. I mean, it's not that stressful, is it, like having to look up a map, but yeah, I think that it would just make things a little bit easier. So I think for the rest of today I need to do some housework because I haven't done any really all week, and I'm sat here looking at the chaos behind the camera just thinking, yeah, I need to do something about that. So I think I'm going to listen to a little more of Assassin's Quest. I'm already about 17% of the way through it and I'm enjoying it actually so far. I was a little nervous going into this book because with the previous two books I did struggle a little bit initially to get into them because they are so slow. This is a very character driven story, but I'm finding that with this third book so far, straight away pretty much I can almost work out what the plot is going to be, whereas with the first two books there was a little bit of plot, but it was much more about the character development, and so it did take a while for me to grasp what the plot was going to be in those first two books, whereas with this one I think I've already worked out what the main plot is going to be, which is obviously good. And so yeah, I think that I'm going to do that for a little bit this afternoon, is listen to my audiobook while trying to sort my house out, and then I think this evening I'm going to settle down and read some more of the Heart Principle, because yeah, I haven't read any more of that really or at all since the last time I updated you. So I am now about a third of the way through the Heart Principle, and I wanted to do a really quick update because I am absolutely loving this book so far. I know that it's quite early to be making a prediction like this, but I think it's going to be 5 stars. Like, that is how much I have loved it so far. I really love Quinn as a main character. Like, I actually loved him. I really liked him in the first two books, but I like him even more in this book. Both of the main characters are vulnerable and they do have a lot that they need to work through, and you can see that throughout the book and the way that they're trying to communicate with each other. But I really like the way that Kwang is recognising the way that Anna might need to communicate with him in a different way, and they just seem really sweet together. All of the books in this series have autism representation, and obviously I can't speak on how accurate that representation is, but I know that the author is autistic, and I have seen Own Voices reviews for the first two books in this series that seemed very positive. Hey everyone, so I finished reading The Heart Principle last night, and I was going to do an update about the 60% mark, but my neighbours decided to have a party last night and the music was so loud, and I just thought if I try and film an update and you can hear the music in the background, then I'm not going to be able to use that clip. And also I was a little bit worried that I'd get a YouTube copyright strike for having High School Musical playing in the background, but I did end up finishing the book and I really loved this book. I'm going to give it 5 stars. This book was not at all what I was expecting, and I had a look on Goodreads at some of the other reviews, and the reviews at the moment do seem very mixed. I know that I went into this book expecting it to be very similar to the previous two books in the series, and I think that if you do go into this book expecting it to be a light-hearted rom-com, then you might be disappointed because that's not what this book is. The first third of this book does focus on building the relationship between Anna and Kwang. However, the story then starts to deviate quite a lot, and because of that, the romance did start to take a little bit of a backseat. I did still like the romance, and I did feel that there was good chemistry between the two main characters. I thought that the steamy scenes were as good as the previous two books, and ultimately I was rooting for the characters. Generally though, the tone of this book did feel very emotionally raw, and I read the author's note at the end of the book where she does talk about how this was a very personal book for her to write, and so I did really appreciate that. I cried so much reading this book, like I can't even explain. One thing I will say is that the ending to me felt just a little bit rushed. I felt like I was being told what was happening rather than being shown, and so yeah, that would probably be my only little criticism. However, overall the book made me feel a lot of different emotions, and I think that it is a story that will stick with me. I will leave a link to the Goodreads page in the description if you wanted to check the content warnings for this book, because there are quite a lot, and I think that if you're not in a good place to read about mental health in general, then I don't know if I would recommend this book. But if you do think that you can handle that and you like the idea of a romance that does have these heavier themes, then I think this book is going to be one of my favourite books of the year. So The Heart Principle was on my Bookoplathon TBR to read a chance card. I think, yeah, it came out as a chance card or community shelf card. It was one of the 2 cards, I know that much, and it was on my my Magical Readathon TBR to read a 5-star prediction. I think I am going to end the vlog here though, so thanks for watching if you've made it this far. I think the next book that I'm going to be picking up in next week's vlog is going to be The Burning God by R.F. Kwang. So this is the 3rd book in the Poppy War series, and I picked this up from the library earlier this week, so I'm really looking forward to getting stuck into this and hopefully, well, finally finishing the series. I am also starting a buddy read tomorrow with Helen from Helen's Book Haven, so we're going to be reading One by One by Ruth Ware, which is a mystery thriller, and I'm really excited for this because I really enjoyed The Turn of the Key by Ruth Ware. I would say that that is one of my favourite thrillers of all time, so really interested to see how this compares. But yeah, thanks again for watching, and if you did enjoy this video, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and comment down below if you're taking part in Bookoplathon or the Magical Readathon. Let me know how your first weeks went, and yeah, don't forget to click subscribe if you would like to see more videos from me, and I will see you next time. Bye.